You may think your hotel is already green, but are you green enough for today's eco-conscious traveler? Welcome to the Sustainable Hospitality Podcast, your destination to learn from hospitality professionals on the value and opportunities sustainability will bring to your organization. It will put more heads in beds and lower costs at the same time. We are your hosts and sustainable hospitality experts, Kathy McGuire and Amy Walls.
I'm your host, Kathy McGuire. In this episode, we talk with Jared Meyers, chairman of Legacy Vacation Resorts, about the benefits of becoming a certified B Corp, which demonstrates an organization's social and environmental impact. Enjoy the episode. Welcome, everyone. I'm very pleased to introduce Jared Meyers, who is chairman of Legacy Vacation Resorts, a certified B Corporation, and he's here to talk to us about obtaining that kind of certification for hotel properties. So Jared, thank you very much for being here. Could you give us a brief description of B Corp, which actually stands for Benefit Corporation, right?
Yes, it does. I'd be happy to. Thank you. So I like to describe it in two different ways, depending on who's listening. And the reason for that is there's the business way, but a lot of times the average person glosses over that because it sounds too technical. And then there's the average consumer way. And so if we start in the average consumer explanation of what a B Corp is, it basically is in your personal relationships, you have certain expectations that your friends or family or other relationships you have treat you fairly, that they don't take advantage of you, that we play by a fair set of rules. That's basically what B Corp is in the business world. It's that we've agreed to abide by kind of a fair set of rules, that we consider the consequences of our actions. And in fact, we try to be a good person and try to be net positive. So that might be a kind of a consumer understanding of why it is that we try to be B Corps. But from a business and more technical sense, it is a certification that looks at the whole of a business, which is different than a lot of certifications that are at the product level. So the difference would be there if we were a restaurant and we sold a certain product at that restaurant, or a store that sold a certain product, it might have a certification, but it doesn't mean our entire business is viewed in that certification the way that B Corp does. So it's a holistic certification, and it looks at a stakeholder orientation. And what that means is it ensures that we're not just making money for our shareholders, or that we only care about one particular stakeholder. So in a business, you generally have stakeholders which include the environment, it includes your workers, your employees, it includes your community, it includes your customers, and then sometimes there's a few other variations like supply chain and so forth that are in that stakeholder group. So it observes how we act across all stakeholders and ensures that we're paying attention to them, that we're analyzing the consequences of our decisions, and are we even going a step further and trying to have a net positive impact with them. And maybe last, to round out the definition, it really pays attention to the principles of inclusion, regeneration, and equity that's applied at each of those stakeholder levels. And it's done through an impact assessment that all businesses take that gives you a score, which is ultimately verified by a nonprofit called B Lab, which is a third party, and ensures that there's real credibility behind it, that we're not just saying, hey, we're doing a good job, look at our score, but no one really verified it. It ensures that when you do become a B Corporation, that you are adhering to those principles and those policies, and it's been verified.
So that means that for B Corp, it means that you're more mission driven than just maximizing shareholder profit. Is that right?
It is.
So you adhere to that mission first and foremost. What kinds of things did you implement at your properties?
So at Legacy, we've been a B Corp for about 2 years now, and we started implementing even beforehand. So in answering that, what's interesting is some businesses may already be operating like a B Corp and they don't realize it because they haven't gone through the journey. And then others learn about it and say, I have to see how I can improve my impact. So a lot of our changes, we found out that some of what we were already doing was great and we didn't know that. And we found that we needed to make some changes that the impact assessment helped clarify for us of where those improvements needed to be. So some of the changes that we made after kind of starting the B Corp path was we rolled out a living wage for our employees. That's one of probably the biggest initiatives that we put in place, because that was the most expensive change we made as a company. Everything else was much more, we need to put that policy in place. We need to do some slight improvements here or there, but that was probably the expensive one. But it's not expensive to become a B Corp. It's just that we weren't doing that in the first place. Some of the other changes that we've done, so if we look at it kind of in the stakeholder orientation from the environment perspective, we looked at kind of the whole sense of the travel experience, from the second that a guest learns about us online, let's say, or they call in, to them arriving on property, to them leaving the property, and analyzing where did we have influence to reduce the carbon footprint through that process. And so easy ones would be at the property level. We implemented more eco-friendly and efficient renovations at our resorts. So we have LED lighting, we have better insulation in our rooms, and we have better. So to pick up on where I left off with our room renovations, we went with higher SEER air conditioning systems. And this hasn't occurred necessarily at every individual property, but we have policies in place as we change them out to move in this general direction. At some properties, we've already done it. We target the properties where we have ownership first, and then we have other ones where we manage and are not directly part of Legacy Vacation Resorts, but maybe part of our network. And so that's kind of what guides some of our decisions of where we start the conversation first. Other changes we've done is a strong focus on reducing single-use plastics at our property. So over this last year, we finally finished changing out all of our hotel rooms to put dispensers in there for shampoo, soap, and other hygiene products. And we no longer had the single-use plastics in our room. We stopped selling single-use plastic water bottles and other beverages in our stores. And at the time of check-in, we give each guest a reusable water bottle that they can use throughout their stay. And we have filtration systems throughout the resort, so in our lobbies. And we also have signage in our rooms to let the guests know that, according to government authorities, the water is safe to drink. So we kind of let them know it's not just our statement, but we kind of show whether that's EPA or the local, water authority that says that. And we try to educate them on why we're doing this as well. So it's not just that we're doing this transparent or I should say invisible to them. We try to have signage throughout properties at the point where these transactions are occurring, so our guests can learn a little bit along the way, but do it in a way understanding that they're on vacation and they're not there to be taught. But we would explain why we've kind of phased out the plastic bottles and why we've gone to reusable. A few other examples on the environmental front. We don't have an airline, so we can't really reduce the carbon footprint there. But we can encourage our guests to drive electric vehicles to our properties. So we do have electric charging on site that we provide directly, and we're doing that in a way to encourage our guests to use a better mode of transportation if they're driving into our properties. Over time, all of our properties will have renewable energy. They don't right now. I think that about 16% of our energy footprint does come from renewable sources, and that's primarily driven by our resort in New Jersey that has renewable power. And then there's a lot of day-to-day focus on just reducing energy use to get it to the lowest point possible, and then whatever is ultimately left over, we address through carbon offsets. So we are a carbon neutral company. We put that in place last year, and even with the pandemic, we still moved forward. In fact, it was probably easier because we had fewer guests on site, but we were committed to doing it anyway. So I'm probably leaving a few things out, but that might be some good environmental descriptions. On the worker front, I talked about living wage, but there's also a big focus on trying to improve diversity and inclusion within our company. And so we measure those statistics, and we don't measure them just across the entire company. We measure them at different levels within the company, because I think that's one of the areas that we learned through the B Corp certification that companies make mistakes is they'll say, hey, look at this diversity. It sounds really good. But if you say, yeah, well, how does your ownership look? How does your board look? How does your executive management look? And we start comparing some of the higher levels of management to across the whole company, you'll find in most companies that there's a big difference there. So we still have a lot of work to do there. but we measure it and we have plans in place to work in that direction. Do you want me to stop? I can continue through some others, but I know I could probably talk for a while on this.
I love your enthusiasm for it, me as well. So what kind of benefits have you received since you became B Corp, and kind of feedback are you getting from your guests and employees?
So I would say I don't think we've seen our largest benefit from a revenue standpoint yet, and that's largely driven by other circumstances of the state of the industry right now. Mm-hmm. But the benefits that I can say I've seen is our employees are more enthusiastic, and we've measured that with satisfaction surveys. I think our latest one, which might have been a month or so ago, might have had 93% satisfaction across the company. And prior to becoming a B Corp, we might have been around the 80s. So just to show how much that's gone up, and even in this time where, there's a lot of concern and anxiety out there, let's say. So we were pleased with that. We're always still trying to improve. So 93 is not good enough for us, but it still made us feel good about that journey. And we know based on industry research that we have a generational shift happening right now. And as we are appealing to younger generations to be our employees, they really care that a business has purpose baked in at the mission level, not as an add-on that you throw in after the fact. B Corp is by far the best. It's a certification, but it really is a way of operating beyond that. And that's where I think some confusion happens. It's once you start adhering to these principles and thinking like B Corps, you have an ethos as a company that is very attractive to top talent, and then it's very good at retaining that top talent. So I think I know we're engaging our employees better. I know we have a better face out there for new employees coming on board, even from a marketing perspective. And no one should go after this for marketing. I'll say that, but there is an added benefit because, for example, you're having this conversation with me right now, right? I'm getting in front of other people. If we weren't a B Corp, we might not be having this conversation. It shows that we care at a certain level that people want to hear more about it and learn more about it. So we've gotten more press as a result of it. It's given us a way to differentiate our business because there are a ton of hotels out there. And at the end of the day, we are a small brand. I mean, we're competing against major brands out there, which is not easy to do. And we don't want to compete and say, stay with us because we're a few dollars cheaper than the hotel down the block. That's a means for a slow death of a hotel property. So what is it that makes you unique and different? Some hotels have something. Some hotels, are built in a certain way that they already differentiate themselves. But we really looked at how we're set up, and we do think we give great family vacations, but we also acknowledge that others do too. And so what makes us different, we believe, is the way that we have this responsibility baked in at the core of our business, that it's not just me saying this as the CEO, but that you have all of our employees understanding this at our housekeeping level and our front desk level and our engineering level. And it's a never ending educational process. But when you have that, you really have a whole team of employees kind of carrying this forward. And then maybe the last kind of proven point is we see the state of our industry right now. And while I would like us to be in a much healthier situation than we are in, we have done much better than the average company in our industry. It's not just that we're surviving this, but we finished last year pretty well. We're waiting for our final numbers. I expected to have a much more significant loss than ended up happening. We might have actually posted a profit last year, which was unintended. But we didn't reduce headcount. We didn't do pay cuts, and I should say we did do a brief pay cut, and then we reinstated it what was not paid. So everyone was paid in full. We made good on all of our commitments. Again, being carbon neutral last year, we didn't cut back on any of our social or environmental commitments going forward. So part of it, we did that, yes, because we are a B Corp and we care about that at the mission level, but also I think in doing that, we've been able to accomplish more. It's inspired more creativity out of our employees. And so I've been really proud where we've gone through this. And I feel very good that as we come out of the travel depression that we have right now, we're going to be in a very good place for growing faster than the industry as a whole does. And I would attribute that to the principles behind being a B Corp.
Absolutely. Well, my last question to you is, what advice would you give to another hotel property in seeking to become a B Corp?
So I'd have two pieces of advice. One is the community that you're in usually influences kind of where you're going to go. And we all get to decide kind of who our friends are, who our mentors are, what networks we choose to be a part of. And when you do that, you tend to become a lot like those in that particular network. The other added benefit of being a B Corp, or there are some other great, I should say, sister networks, conscious capitalism, 1% of the planet and the environment. There's others out there that bring like-minded companies and individuals together that kind of encourage each other in friendly ways to be better. So one is surround yourself in the right type of community. Florida for Good is one of those communities. We launched that for all industries to participate in the state of Florida, and there's free resources to help businesses be better. We've also launched B Tourism, which is very similar to Florida for Good, but the difference is that's global, and that's for anyone in the travel and tourism space to engage in these same practices, get access to free resources, learn from existing B Corps or other values-aligned businesses. And then last, we have to measure. If we don't measure, we're not going to actually make any changes. And the measurement tool used by B Corps is the B Impact Assessment. And what's nice about that is that assessment's free and it's confidential. So any company can hop on the assessment. They can start taking it and either decide this isn't for me and they can stop, or they can continue and do the whole thing. And they never have to become a B Corp if they don't want to, but they can still use the same impact tool that Patagonia uses, that Eileen Fisher uses, that Ben & Jerry uses, from other industries, or within our industry that Intrepid Travel, that Towski Valley, or the Legacy Vacation Resorts, uses. And in doing that, I guarantee it will improve their impact and their business because it's a free education that you get in the process. And if at the end of taking that, you decide, hey, I want to go forward and certify, you'll know what you need to do. You either need to raise your score a little bit. Maybe you'll be surprised and you've already exceeded the 80-point threshold and you'll submit. And what I'll put out there is if anyone does that, we have a lot of great free resources and even universities that are helping businesses become B Corps that we've established partnerships with. So they'll provide students with free internships to help those businesses take the assessment, create policies, make changes, and then ultimately submit to become a B Corp.
That's amazing, everything that you've done. I admire what you've done. You are a leader in the industry in this area and appreciate so much what you're giving back. And it just goes to show you that you can make a profit and still be kind to people and the environment. Jared Meyers, Chairman of Legacy Vacation Resorts, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you for having me today.
Take care.
Thank you for joining us today on the Sustainable Hospitality Podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe. And if you'd like a free consultation on becoming a much greener hotel, please visit us at sustainablehospitalitypodcast.com.